Today, we're exploring the street-level side of Marvel, but one that is globetrotting and involves ancient ninjas, mystical demons, the heroes of the Marvel Universe, and what it means to look for your place in the world when all sides are beset with tragedy and conflict. Today is all about Elektra Natchios, aka Elektra. In an interview in 1982's The Comics Journal, Frank Miller spoke about creating Elektra. He said, "I wanted Daredevil to have a female antagonist, like Sans Serif in the Spirit. In fact, I ripped off the first Sans Serif story to do the first Elektra story. Rather than just regurgitating it though, I put a harsher edge on the conflict. I had there be more consequence to the fact that he was living with a contradiction in that he loved a woman and she was his enemy." Miller was also invested a great deal in Elektra, even having used her name during his fanzine days. In Daredevil, she was meant to be one and done to keep the stakes for Murdoch high. It explains his connection to the character and his response to what happens to her soon after her debut. Miller said another time that, quote, "The name Elektra has come to represent an entire psychological phenomenon. She was a young woman who had her sexual interest centered on her father, and just as she was transforming this to another man, her father was killed." If this sounds familiar, it comes from Greek mythology and tragedies written by Sophocles and Euripides. The story Elektra Assassin was previewed in the Comics Journal issue 107 with an amazing painted cover by artist Bill Sienkiewicz. Here's what he said about Natchios. "For fans, Elektra became a sex symbol. I think at one point Frank wanted to show her as a death symbol with nothing special about her. Now I think she's both. It's like what Frank's doing with Batman. She's become mythic. You can't really know her. You can't even know what she's thinking, although you may think you do. Her motivations are elusive. The more we show about Elektra, ultimately, the less you'll really know about her." And with that in mind, let's get to her story. Elektra was born in Crete, Greece, to a Greek ambassador named Hugo and a cheating wife named Christina. She had an older brother named Orestes who would later be killed by the Punisher. We'll get to that. Because of Christina's open leg policy, both Hugo and Orestes suspected that Hugo wasn't his biological father, and so, angry about this, hired a hitman to take Christina out. They launched an air-to-ground assault on her from a helicopter while they were on vacation. Both parents ended up being shot in the attack, but Christina gave birth to a baby girl just before she passed away. As Elektra grew up, she was deeply troubled by the trauma of her own family's fracture. She was smart but psychologically damaged, and her grades suffered as a result. To make it worse, when she was 9, some men came and killed her puppy, Agamemnon. Orestes showed up to save her, utilizing his newfound martial arts skills. It was this horrid experience that set her on a path of learning martial arts herself. She advanced rapidly and earned her first black belt at 12 years old. Hugo took a young Elektra to New York City, where she ended up attending Columbia University, studying, ironically, poli-sci, and it was during this time that she met Matthew Murdoch, who was at Columbia working toward a law degree. The pair hit it off quickly and easily, and dated for a while, though they had to keep it a secret from Elektra's understandably overprotective father. The excitement, danger, and adventure around this meant they got very close very fast. A little while later, Elektra and Ambassador Dad were taken hostage by terrorists. Murdoch freed them, but what happened during the fight is that the NYPD accidentally shot and killed Hugo. Elektra was devastated, in agony, and now suddenly alone, adrift in the sea of life without a parental anchor. She went after the people that attacked her father, and though she was skilled, she lost. She too may have been killed, but a sigh flew out of the shadows and struck her assailants. She thought it was Stick, but it was truly an agent of an ancient order and ninja clan called the Hand. This impressed Elektra enough that the sigh became her primary weapon. After that, Elektra went to Japan and started training with the Chaste clan under Sensei Styx. She rose through the clan ranks rapidly, earning a rank of authority, but Elektra's heart was not pure yet, still stained by the blood of her past, and so Styx had Elektra leave the clan. Essentially, a Ronin now, Elektra set out to earn her place by Styx's side to prove her heart was pure. So she went after the Hand, the ninja clan that had opposed the Chaste for ages. She infiltrated them, set on destroying the Hand from the inside. But the Hand were ready, cultivating Elektra into a deadly assassin. She would eventually escape, but the Hand's grasp on Elektra would follow her always. Again on her own, and now with a specific set of skills and not much else, Elektra became a mercenary. She was hired to take out a South American dictator, which put her on the radar of S.H.I.E.L.D., followed by a U.S. ambassador who was being manipulated by a demon called the Beast from the Hand, a presidential candidate named Ken Wind, and multiple S.H.I.E.L.D. agents like John Garrett. Garrett was wounded in that ordeal, and later sent back into the custody of S.H.I.E.L.D., where he was put into stasis. Funny enough, Frank Miller and our artist Bill Sienkiewicz said that the Elektra Assassin book was meant to be filler to, quote, put food on the table while working on their self-described Daredevil minor magnum opus. In Elektra's first appearance by publishing Chronology, Daredevil issue 168, which, funny enough, spells her name wrong on the cover, Elektra took a contract assignment to take down a murder trial witness named Alaric Wallenquist, and this brought her into a direct exchange with Daredevil. Daredevil recognized Elektra's voice and knew this to be Natchios, the woman with whom he had fallen in love with when they were younger. Daredevil had to save Elektra down at the docks when she was ambushed by Wallenquist's cronies. Matt kissed her, then took Alaric away, leaving her on her knees as tears mixed with the pouring rain. In her first solo story in Bizarre Adventures issue 29 in the fall of 1981, Elektra took out a Nazi war criminal named von Eisenbluth, followed by another contract that sent her to New York City and once again right into the path of Matt Murdock, Daredevil, the man without fear. It was there in NYC that Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, hired mercenary Elektra to take out Daily Bugle reporter Ben Urich, but Matt stopped him, so in retaliation, Kingpin sent his new assassin to take out Murdock's friend and partner, Foggy Nelson. But she couldn't do it. She knew that Foggy and Matt were friends, and so, as a failsafe, Kingpin sent the mercenary Bullseye to take her out and finish the job. Bullseye attacked Elektra, impaled her with her own size, then slit her throat and left her to die. She barely made it to Matt's apartment, where she collapsed and died right in Daredevil's arms. Elektra would remain off the table for a while, that is until the Hand decided to resurrect her so she could help them with their fight against Styx the Chaste clan. In the middle of the ceremony, Daredevil and Black Widow showed up along with a guy from the Chaste named Stone. They ended up taking her body back to the Chaste stronghold to finish the resurrection process, a time when she was purified and her dark essence extracted. In 1990, Frank Miller again wrote an Elektra story, this one called Elektra Lives Again, which turned out to be a bit of a clickbait title. It essentially showed how Elektra continued to haunt Matt's memories and his dreams. Then a group named Snakeroot, which was also associated with the Hand, tried to resurrect John Garrett, but instead pulled the dark essence of Elektra out of his body and used it to create Airness. When she was taken down, her essence was reabsorbed back into Elektra, making her soul whole again with both dark and light. Again, the cycle was repeated. She was again not pure and went back to what she knew: contract work, killing. Elektra then created her own clan, Ryu, the Army of Stealth. This was to oppose her old acquaintance Takagi, who'd become the leader of the Snakeroot clan, and who had set about purifying Snakeroot's Saki sword with the blood of innocence. Elektra ended up killing Takagi with the sword, and both he and Snakeroot were now finished. In the Marvel vs. DC event in 1996, Elektra had to take on DC's Catwoman. They battled at a construction site in Gotham City with Catwoman getting first blood, but it was Elektra, willing to go a little bit further than Selina, who won that round, as Catwoman was tossed off of a rooftop into what looked like a cat box. When Magneto used his power to rip the adamantium off of Wolverine's bones and right out of his body during the Fatal Attractions event, it was Elektra who helped him recover from the madness that he fell into afterwards. This was in 1996 during Larry Hama's run on Wolverine, where Elektra and Wolverine met for the first time ever. At the end of 96, Elektra got her own monthly series by Peter Milligan and Mike Deodato Jr. This is where we get to see Elektra build out a new life and a new network of friends and allies like Stick, Nina, and Conrad Weiss, along with some fearsome enemies. She took on Bullseye again, encountered the Architect of the Shining Ones and their minions like Shatterhead, and others like Killer Shrike and Razorfist. It was the Architect summoning all of these assassins to splash the city red in a nasty bloodbath. The Architect took Elektra's astral form and brought her to India and wanted her to kill the Architect so he could be reborn in human form. She then battled the Four Winds, an ancient Chinese order of ninjas. This was followed by Joe Armstrong, aka American Samurai, before he turned and started training with Colleen Wing. When Larry Hama took over writing duties from Milligan with issue 14, he brought Elektra into a fight with Kuriyama of the Hand. He ended up killing Nina, and then using the Hand's powers to resurrect her. During her first of two arcs, called Devil's Reign, Elektra met Witchblade and then Cyblade. In 1997, Elektra appeared in Amazing Spider-Man issue 424, where she helped take out Madame Qua, leader of a Hand splinter cell called the True Believers. In 98, when Karen Page was in prison, Elektra helped out a little. Whether with Matt Murdock or not, she was willing to help out. Her love for him remained, even from the periphery. At the end of 1998, in the MC2 continuity, Wolverine and Elektra hooked up in J2, which was a book about Juggernaut's son, and they had a baby named Rena Logan, who became the character Wild Thing. Elektra was then hired by S.H.I.E.L.D. to assassinate the Hydra-controlled dictator of Iraq named Saddam Dassam and steal his Scorpio key, but the device proved very powerful, and so she didn't want to hand it over to S.H.I.E.L.D., but instead put it in the custody of the police officer who'd shot her father. She then helped out a woman in getting revenge on the guys who assaulted her. In 2002, Elektra took a contract which was a hit on a guy named Daniel Connor. She took him out, but the deed was witnessed by Daniel's daughter, Avery Connor, who it turns out was created using some of Wolverine's DNA. So Elektra teamed up with Wolverine to take out a guy guy named Kiefer, who'd been the one to control Avery's parents and monitor her progress over the years. Around this time, the Hand wanted to use a basketball player named Lyle Crawford as their pawn, as he was running for a political campaign. Lyle's deceased jazz musician father appeared to Elektra to give her this mission, as he'd been decapitated by the Hand. Elektra had to decapitate Lyle before he too turned into the Hand's beast. Then a guy named Jeremy Locke was gathering up the family of Elektra's victims and forming a coalition to go after her. They captured and drugged Elektra, but Elektra escaped, killed most of them, but Locke ended up helping her see her cause and effect of her actions. Carson, an aide to Jeremy Locke, had his friend and sensei Drake work with Elektra to break her of her cycle of violence. Drake set her on a good path now, one with meaning and purpose. The Hand was pissed about this and killed the rest of Locke's coalition, kidnapped Locke and murdered Drake. Elektra ended up having to kill a Hand agent, but stabbing him through Locke, killing both of them and thus beginning her cycle of life and death once more. She was then hired by a guy named Leonard from the Paladin Corporation to take out a rival named Anton. Paladin then loaned Elektra out to an exiled senator from the country of Janda to take out the Jandan president Bridget Hapanmias. Not only was she successful, but she helped the rebels stage a coup and take their country back. Then, bored, she started to take out the Punisher's targets before Frank Castle could get to them, and she ended up telling him about this when they finally crossed paths. Elektra was then hired to take out the mysterious Pika Loyo, said to be the reincarnation of a god and who controlled an army. When Elektra found him, she saw he was just a boy, and instead of killing his whole army, allowing the army of Now to take the boy down and along with his cult, she was then hired to assassinate a Russian mobster named Evgeny Bezebenkov, and so she infiltrated his mansion but ended up being caught as she was sick and feverish at the time, something she caught while in Now. They beat her, drugged her, and interrogated her, but it wasn't enough. She broke out and killed them all. In 2004, when C.B. Sapolsky was still using the Akira Yoshida nom de plume, he wrote a story called Elektra the Hand. It told of her time with the Hand as she learned their history and powers of resurrection along with her place in their order. In the new X-Men title in 2005, a black-clad Elektra and some ninja attacked the new X-Men at their mansion where Northstar was recovering. They wanted to steal his body to make him into one of their assassins. Not long after that, Gorgon formed a mutant cult, bringing both Hydra and the Hand together during a story called Enemy of the State. They wanted to kill powerful beings so they could resurrect them as pawns. In response, Nick Fury from S.H.I.E.L.D. reached out to Elektra for help. In fact, when she got to S.H.I.E.L.D., Wolverine was just recovering from an attack on him. Elektra ended up being captured and working with Northstar, who was already under the Hand's control. Together they attacked a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier called Blackhawk that crashed into a small Arkansas town and killed hundreds of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Then Elektra revealed to Wolverine that she was working undercover for Fury, and they worked together to take out Hydra and then Gorgon. And so during Secret Invasion, Elektra was replaced by a Skrull. This Skrull Elektra led the Hand, but was then revealed as an alien when she was impaled and killed by Echo. Learning of this, suddenly everyone was suspect. Who could they trust? And then at the end of the story, the real Elektra returned along with all the heroes who'd been replaced. During Marvel's Dark Reign era, Elektra was then turned over to the care of Norman Osborn's S.H.I.E.L.D. replacement called Hammer for study and recovery aboard a Hammer helicarrier. In there, Paladin came to kill her to cash in on an $82 million bounty on her head, but she made him choke on one of her broken teeth and then impaled him with a metal spear. Then she escaped, swan diving off the floating ship with a headband and a stolen UMP. Norman Osborn sent his Bullseye disguised as Hawkeye, one of the Dark Avengers, after Elektra, who by this time had made it to the office of Nelson and Murdoch, though she was shot and still bleeding out. Foggy took her to Night Nurse to fix her up, and there she was attacked by Nico, but that didn't work either. This led to another battle between Elektra and Bullseye, replete with barbed arrows and 50 cal bullets. She then took a trick arrow and impaled Bullseye, driving it right through his midsection, which is when Wolverine showed up to help. And at the Blackhawk crash site, Elektra took out the other two while Osborn watched on the screen. Elektra encountered Wolverine again at Wolverine First Class, this time in Japan, as they were there to take out the Hand and Akuma while Wolverine battled the Shinigami Demon. In 2009, Elektra joined Deadpool, the Punisher, Crimson Dynamo, and Thundra as a team called Code Red. Code Red teamed up with the Black Ops X-Force to battle with Thunderbolt Ross, who was now the Red Hulk, a story that soon led to the fall of the Hulks in 2010. During an event called Shadowland, Daredevil was possessed by the Beast of the Hand and took over Hell's Kitchen, his Shadowland. The Heroes for Hire, including Elektra now, and other street-level heroes, teamed up to fight Daredevil and his new ally, the White Tiger. She also helped out with stopping the resurrection of the disgusting hitman, Bullseye. This led to her appearing with the Heroes for Hire in their new series with the core members, plus others like Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, Silver Sable, Black Widow, and even Falcon. They all battled the Puppet Master in their debut issue. She later joined them during the Spider Island event, helping blockade a bridge to keep the island and the spider virus quarantined. Elektra then joined the Thunderbolts team along with Red Hulk, whom she battled in the past, the Punisher, along with Deadpool and Flash Thompson as Venom. Together they fought and killed the dictator of Kamchatka, a small country near Singapore. This is when her affection for Frank Castle got the best of her. But it turns out Samuel Stearns, the leader, now called Red Leader, manipulated Punisher to go after his own teammates, and it was also during this time when Elektra's brother Orestes was killed by the Punisher, of all people. When Elektra was captive of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s prison town of Pleasant Hill, Elektra was called Sheriff Eva and ended up forming a bond with Absorbing Man, something she leveraged to save innocents when Zemo assaulted the town and Kobik's mental blocks on everyone fell. Now free but racked with guilt still, Elektra applied to rejoin S.H.I.E.L.D. and ended up becoming a field director, taking over for Phil Coulson. This was during Civil War II, and so she was tasked with bringing Coulson in and helping director Maria Hill. She eventually resigned from S.H.I.E.L.D. and went to Japan, where Deadpool called her to help the Avengers Unity division stop a plot to resurrect the Hulk. Hulk came back to life anyway, and so they battled the Hulk together. She was also tracking a splinter cell of the hand called the Fist, and had an encounter with none other than Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099. She tried to stab O'Hara, and later teamed up with her female Captain America and Dr. Sonny Frisco to continue their mission. Together they flew to Chicago, Illinois to stop a witch named Medea along with the Fist, who were trying to cause a zombie outbreak in the city. In 2019, Elektra joined Wolverine, Venom, Dr. Voodoo, Punisher, and Conan the Barbarian as the Savage Avengers, and together they worked to stop an ancient sorcerer named Kulong Goth. In her fifth series, subtitled Running with the Devil, Elektra took on Arcade while spending time in Las Vegas, Nevada. Arcade was working with a sadistic casino owner named Jasper. By issue 5, she defeated Arcade and saved a bartender named Lauren from Jasper. Elektra teamed up with Stick to look for a book that could help them finally eliminate the hand. Elektra was severely wounded recovering the book, and when Stick revived her, she fully remembered what Daredevil's true identity was. The book spoke of the hand's counter, called the Fist, an order that required a queen and a king to lead them. This is around the same time that Murdoch was arrested and convicted of murder. Elektra went to visit him, proposing to become the new king and queen of the Fist, but Matt refused. And it was then, while Matt was in prison during the Devil's Reign story, that Elektra took on the mantle of Daredevil, transforming herself into the Woman Without Fear. She helped defend Hell's Kitchen from Null and his army of symbiotes and the Dragon symbiotes. Meanwhile, Bullseye and his clones managed to escape from the Kingpin-controlled Ravencroft Institute and attacked the Woman Without Fear. She was defeated and nearly killed, but Iron Man showed up to save her. She was then paired with Typhoid Mary, eventually defeating Bullseye and remanding him back into custody. Daredevil was eventually released, and both Murdoch and Natchios protected the city side by side. They were a close team when they worked to take down the Kingpin, and once they were successful, Elektra went back to focusing on destroying the hand once and for all. In 2022, Elektra issue 100 was released, which was penned by Ann Nesenti, and in this story found Elektra opposing Typhoid Mary once more. Then, led by Charles Soule, an anthology of tales from Elektra's life were told in Elektra Black, White, and Blood, opening with her being bit by vampires, which is when we learn that this Elektra has a daughter. She fried herself in the morning sun so she wouldn't risk injuring her daughter. She also met the immortal assassin while on her crimson path, and a slew of other stories told in the following issues. Elektra as Daredevil worked with Stick from an uninhabited yet contested island where the Fist began to take down the hand. They were king and queen, yet the book foretold that only one could survive, a prophecy that would soon be fulfilled. They climbed up a snowy, rocky cliff face to defeat the souls of the hand's dead. To resurrect the Fist, those souls needed to be defeated. They succeeded, and Stick declared them king and queen of the reformed Fist and husband and wife. The book revealed something called the Lunate Talisman that would banish souls to hell and reanimate their corpses under complete control of the hand, so they immediately knew they had to recover that talisman. They broke out prisoners from the Myrmidian prison and brought them to the island to join the Fist, which is when Iron Man showed up to stop them, but he was quickly taken out, followed by the hand-controlled president, who perished while people were watching. Elektra was now deemed a murderer on world news. Frank Castle, Beast of the Hand, said they needed to be punished and headed to the island. In the ensuing battle, amidst a torrential downpour whose raindrops cut sharply through the darkened sky, Frank and Matt battled while Elektra took on Akka of the Hand and was stabbed and gravely wounded. They did though manage to recover the talisman and set about trying to destroy it. When the Avengers attacked, Elektra took on Captain America and Black Panther, yet before getting the metal bracelet slapped on her wrists. At the end of that volume, only one thing remained. Elektra killed Matt Murdock so he could go to hell to save the souls of his friends from the demon Kralik, aka the Beast of the Hand. When he eventually came back from hell, he lost his memory. but he was back on Earth, still in Hell's Kitchen, but as a priest named Father Matthew. Elektra watched quietly from the shadowy rooftops, clad in her black and red. A demon possessed Elektra, so Murdoch exorcised it from her body and saved her, an event that forced him to finally remember his past. And so the story of Elektra Natchios continues into the future. That's a wrap on this one, my friends. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.